Okay, somebody wanted me to look at Novo Nordisk. Let's take on this behemoth, okay? This giant. The Danish giant, the pride of Denmark, Novo fucking Nordisk. I feel like a WWE wrestler. Novo Nordisk. Boo. Responsible for half our GDP here in Denmark. Boo. Shut up. We make half the world's insulin. If anybody saw WWE Raw last night. What's up, Humphrey? Novo Nordisk is selling Greenland to Trump.
Order partially filled.
Hilarity? It's a 30 million market cap, pretty low there.
Order partially filled. Order partially filled.
What's going on over here? I think I'm shorting Rigetti. I got to cover a little bit last night.
Order partially filled.
Pre-market, it just dipped for no reason, so I covered a little bit.
Order filled.
Praying it would go back up and get back in.
Order filled.
And it's gone up a little bit, so getting back in. I just covered a few thousand shares after it dipped inexplicably last night. All right. We're going to look at Novo Nordisk. Period, the end. Come up with a final decision on Novo. That's it. I'm not Kramer, man. I have to take my time. I wish I could go fast like him. He's got a big brain. I take a different strat. I go a little slower, but maybe more accurate. So, not saying anything bad about Jim, who I admire greatly. Okay, so yeah, Novo slipped from number 2 to AbbVie. AbbVie's now number 2. Biggest enterprise value drug companies. Novo slipped to number 3. J&J sitting at number 4. Merck at 5. Novartis at 6. Etc., etc. So definitely should be a wake-up call for Novo. All right, the big question on Novo Nordisk is Ozempic IP. Ozempic is going to run out of patent soon. Okay, it's very important to understand that. Do you understand that? Good. Last quarter, well, last 4 quarters, Novo sold let's see here. Let's keep the exchange rate up somewhere here. Let's do 71763. And we'll just call this DKK over here. I always never use this feature of Excel, but you can make a label. So anyway, we could do equal sum these divided by DKK. 28 billion in revenue, trailing 12 months for mostly semaglutide. Okay, so you got 28 billion in revenue that could go generic. But how do generics make all this stuff? And I mean, this accounts for a lot of Novo's valuation, right? It's how much of that is their revenue. Yeah, I was an Organ Novo bear a long time ago when they were doing 3D printing, organ printing. Okay, so here, that's 270. So yeah, so it's 37 billion in trailing 12 months revenue, US dollars. So 27 out of 41. It's like 3/4 almost of revenue is semaglutide. So, and semaglutide was invented a long time ago. Now, that was your first short, William? Is that what you said? Or it was your first stock as a long? Ah, that's funny. Martina.ai. I like it. So we're focused on Novo Nordisk right now, okay? Can you guys focus for a minute? This is very important. It's one of the biggest companies in the world. Focus, focus, you ADHD addled fools. So gross margin's 85%, which means gross margin for Ozempic is, I'm gonna head in the office soon. I was in the office till midnight last night, so. Okay, here's what I want you to think about, okay? Ozempic patent is expired. Or it's expiring extremely soon. They have 27 billion in revenue going out the door, okay? 27 billion that could go out the door. But here's the way I want you to think about this. This is a really interesting way to look at it. Look, all the stuff in the pipeline doesn't fucking matter. There's no way they're going to replace 27 billion of revenue, right? So the question is, how fast can generics make $27 billion of product? It's very hard to make Ozempic, or is it? So let's look at that. Because generics don't care how big a drug is. When the patent's gone, the drug's gone. That's how it works, right? And Ozempic isn't special. That's just medicine. Gross margin for the whole business was 85, but it was lower before. It was like 77 before the rise. So you do a small linear combination. If something was 77 before and it's 85 now, you could reason that maybe the margin on Ozempic is really, really high. But let's argue that it's 90%, just to be, we can even argue it's 85%. So let's look at 80, let's assume it's 85%, okay? So I hope your guys are still following. So assume it's 85%, and you've got this 200 billion Danish krone, or 27 billion, 27.8 billion. Okay. And so this is all about manufacturing. 27.8 billion TTM GLP-1 revenue. Okay, let's say that's at an 85% margin. Usually as a company, what you're interested in is gross profit. But as a generic, what we're interested in is COGS, right? So the COGS, the cost of goods sold, are 4 billion a year, okay? So we assume that nobody can make GLP-1 or semaglutide, in Novo's case, cheaper than Novo. And Novo spends 4 billion a year making it, arguably. I think it sounds like they spend less than that, but generics are the master of making shit cheap, right? That is what they're good at. So we have to look at some generic companies and ask ourselves, do they have the capacity to do this? And we also have to ask ourselves, what is the PP&E that Novo has accumulated such that a generic company would have to be able to knock it off. Actually, VKTX is actually somewhat of a good solution. If they try to, I didn't even think of that. I don't know if they can get through regulatory. I mean, everyone has a GLP, but I guess if the FTC probably wouldn't be too thrilled with the idea of Novo buying Viking. No, it's hard to prolong patents. It doesn't really work that way. Once the patent's expired, it's expired. Now, they're going to try. But 2026 is your patent expiry. So technically, this is the last year of Novo Nordisk revenue. So now we got to look at, okay, so this is DKK. No, now this is USD, PP&E. All right, so they have $17 billion of plants. Here are the numbers that we care about. Right? 28 billion in revenue, 4 billion in cost of goods. That's probably lower than that though. And 17 billion in property, plant, and equipment. So the question is, can Teva and Mylan make, Mylan is now Viatris, can Teva and Viatris and Sun, this is like the Super Bowl for them, right? This is the biggest possible generic in a long time. I remember when Lipitor came out, and it was the most exciting generic in the world. I remember when Prozac generic came out, and that was also previously the most exciting generic. Plavix as well. Companies race like this is the one opportunity if you're a generic company. Look at 28 billion, and you don't even have to invent the drug. Imagine just getting $1 billion of that every year just because you're a little cheaper. Man, every generic company is going to want a piece of this. You know, there's no rule after this on a patent. Now you can see they have some device patents, and the injection device doesn't save you from the generic. So yeah, the other stuff they have doesn't seem like it'll replace Ozempic, and people know Ozempic. People know it works. So yeah, could they come out with a better Ozempic? Sure. And it's going to take time. It doesn't look like they have that, to be frank. And so they need to replace Ozempic with something else. And the reality is doctors will still want to use cheap Ozempic, and insurers will make you take the cheap Ozempic first. And if you can't lose weight with Ozempic, you know, and your insurance says you got to take Ozempic, we're not going to pay for Mounjaro. We're not going to pay for this other stuff. Why would we pay for this other stuff when Teva's making cheap Ozempic? So let's look at Teva. Let's try to understand, can Teva even do this? And people like to look at Teva stock anyway, right? So here's Teva. It's at 21 bucks. They've had a long odyssey, a lot of shitty problems with Teva. At this rate, I'm going to need Ozempic. My gut is expanding rapidly. All right. Yeah, Cagri doesn't seem to be that good. You know, they're going to probably try to replace some Ozempic with Cagri, but and they have a next gen GLP, but you know, it doesn't look great. It does not look great. Generics are mandatory. Every one of us takes generic drugs. Okay, let's look at Teva. Okay, Teva has 6 billion PPE globally for all their drugs. So 5.672 billion PP&E, and that's for the entire damn company. So this is the point of the bulls, is that if Novo has $17 billion of plants just to make Ozempic, and Teva has $6 billion of plants to make every single drug that they have, is it really realistic that Teva could actually make enough Ozempic to even do it, right? What is the biggest injectable that ever went generic? That's a good question, actually. It's a really good question. And it's a lower priced, higher volume. So Teva would have to add $10 billion of capex to facilitate an entire generic of Ozempic. I think where you can look at what Teva and Viatris are saying to investors to make sure that we understand this, because they have to be thinking about it and talking about it in terms of like what the next opportunity is. So maybe it's even in their SEC filings, but let's see. They're presenting at JP Morgan next week. Let's see if they press release here. Well, they are going to report in 2 weeks the next earnings, obviously. Q3. Let's start here. So I don't know if Teva's trying to be a more branded company or not, but let's see if they talk about this at all. Here's generics for them. Oh, don't worry, we're going to look at the Indians next. And Teva has huge amount of plants in India. Okay, well, let's see what this thing says here. This is Victoza generic, which is not semaglutide. But given they were first to file on Victoza, it's kind of telling that, you know, they somewhat telling that they did file. Looks like there's some litigation too. We're going to have to look at this. Here's some of the litigation. We're going to have to go pull up the dockets in these cases and see here they're just arguing to consolidate all of these. Now here are the plaintiffs. You have Rio Biopharmaceuticals, who I've literally never heard of, but Sun Zydus, Dr. Jenny's, and Alvogen and Mylan are all well-known entities. But who the heck is Rio? Is that Serrano? NC Pharma. Okay, I think this is a Brazilian company. Hence Rio Pharma, Rio Biopharma makes sense. Okay, so yeah, no, they are all public, but you have to have Pacer. Let me see if I have a Pacer account here. If anybody does have a Pacer account they're willing to give me, that would be great. But we have to follow the patent litigation and understand it. I think the biggest thing here isn't so much the litigation as it is capacity. Sandoz is another. Here he says, clearly this is a space we're intending to go after. The U.S. patents, he's saying the U.S. patents expire in the early 2030s, but that's just not true. So we're going to have to look at that and see if that's what they're saying. So the way you look at this is Ozempic, and here's the point here. The threat of competition from generic semaglutide, particularly given the extraordinary capital expenditures necessary to deliver billions of injection devices, looks to be 7 years off. Now, you don't actually have to deliver that many injection devices, but this was also the problem with generic Advair. So let's look at Orange Book. So here's Orange Book. Hello? Okay. Here's the better Orange Book, I guess. And we're just going to type semaglutide in here. And it should give us a list of patents that cover semaglutide. Now, I already put all these in Well, there's a list of the drugs, so let's pick one. Let's pick Ozempic. Doesn't really matter which one we pick, by the way. They should all have the same patents. And here are the patents. But we already looked at all these. 8114-833, 8129, 8536. I guess 857 expired. 868, 892, 910, 913, 9457. So maybe they somehow got to patent it twice. That's typically not what happens in reality, but this is an injection device patent, but really you can use any injectable device. So you can't use their injectable device, but there's nothing stopping you from putting it in your own device. We got an efficient market hypothesis fan here. We do have interns. They're not particularly useful. And they're very expensive. Yeah, another roller coaster day. Pray to hang on. Yeah, Orange Book is one of the main tools for this kind of work. Another injection device patent. Nothing against Talib, he just has a crazy attitude. Yeah, exactly, Drax. Like, there are ways to do this. Now, people prefer the device, and when you make a generic, you actually do have to... Technically, this is something that's like very technical, but like this is alpha and super important. There are rules around that you actually do have to make something that is similar. So, but the device makers, the generic device makers are going to be very happy. There's a bunch of companies that make these auto injectors. So I'd be pretty, in fact, that'd be a pretty good business is to get into making these for a generic company as cheaply as possible. And in fact, I think some of the generic companies do this themselves too, because they just have razor thin margins. So Becton Dickinson comes to mind. But yeah, let's double check that none of these patents, by the way, they all say they expire in 2026. So, let's look at the one that says it expires in 2033, because otherwise we don't need to look at the 2026 ones, because we'll give them 2026. But here's their 2031 acylated GLP patent, but they also have a 2026 acylated GLP-1 patent. So, yeah, I know I see the 343 patent, but the 343 is a method of use patent over here. So let's look at the patents. No, spooky. The best, I think a really good way to look at it is the Advair market. It's very similar. You have to sell a device and you have to sell a drug. Biosimilars don't have a problem with this because the biosimilar prices don't get hammered that hard. But let's look at these patents. This 2031 acylated GLP versus the 2026 acylated GLP. This is, like I said, a Super Bowl patent case. So here's Jesper Lau, Paul Block, and Thomas Hansen. And they're authors on papers in the literature. So this is the 343 patent, as I would say. And it says here that the adjusted expiration is 2030. So this is a 343 patent. Okay, and we're going to save this. This is super important. We're looking at Novo Nordisk right now. We're not looking at other stocks right now. And so we'll look at this in a second, and then we're going to look at the 122 patent. The 122 patent is the old patent. And the problem is you cannot invent something twice. That is a clear rule in the patent world. You know, the whole point of a patent is you invent it once. And so this patent expires 2026, March 20th. Okay, so here's patent 2. Well, we're trying to figure out if Novo is going to crash or it's a great long. So let's look at the details. Because this is really what it's all about. If they can't keep selling Ozempic, then, you know, we've got an issue. Okay, market's open. Pretty flattish for me, at least. But hoping that we get some alpha. Take a break to watch the action for a minute or two. What's long-term side effects? Sides. Well, you usually figure out if a drug has side effects within a couple of years. It's just strange whiz of East to do that. Patents and papers are for scientists, not for CEOs. Unless you directly contributed to the invention or something like that. That was mustache hair, not nasal. I use nail clipper for nasal. Yeah, so evergreening. Thank you, Mighty Marshmallow. You know, can you invent something over and over again? Can you repatent something? These are the hopes and prayers of every pharmaceutical company. Some people used to refer to a technique called submarining, which is a patent technique.
Order filled.
Okay, I'm going to short a little ion Q on this tiny rally here. I like to see Rigetti down. That's nice.
Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order partially filled. Order filled. Order partially filled. Order filled. Order partially filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled.
What a rally. Brutal. Holy moly. Jesus Christ.
Order partially filled. Order filled. Order filled.
This hedged position is saving my ass. But this crash is coming. Stocks like this can't go up forever. There's no substance to them. I see MicroStrategy and Humor down. That's good. But my main battle is with Quantum. Let's see here. Where are we? 53, 53. Okay. I got some tricks up my sleeve.
Order filled.
Okay. That was quick. I didn't even get to pull my tricks off.
Order partially filled. Order filled.
Damn, that was quick. Yeah, exclusivity is sort of a regulatory body thing, right? So the patents and regulatory exclusivity are two different things, right?
Order filled.
Qubit's not that easy to short, and none of these stocks are trading on their fundamentals. They're all like Farcoin. they're trading based on how hard somebody wants to gamble. That's really it. Hate to say it. It's just true. But these stocks are so subject to head fakes. You know, I think we've called the top for these stocks like 8 times, you know? So it's been a little frustrating because every time you think it's over, they just make new highs for some reason. You're just sitting there
Order
like,
partially filled.
the fuck?
Order filled.
IBM is not really that levered to Quantum. They don't have enough going on there.
Order partially filled. Order filled.
Yeah, this is looking a little ugly, but like I said, you know, these investors just they come back and you never know what the bottom is. It's such a cluster. Just try to trade around it a little bit with the short bias. And look at that, IonQ is down now.
Order filled.
Do we press? Do we press? Full court press? Hard to say.
Order filled.
Sorry, I gotta watch the markets right now. I can't watch the motivation video. I got a lot going on right now in this stock market. Well, this is when you can buy really cheap protection at least. So, you know, You can buy some out of the money calls after, once it's in the red like this, you buy some out of the money calls, you can short it, and, you know, math should work out that you're protected. Let's see, what do I got here? Let's see, the Ion Q 49.5 calls just got a lot cheaper, for example.
Order filled.
And on dips, you buy those, and on rallies, you short it. And you try to make a couple dollars while still being net short. I don't try to raw dog it too much. I'm not like, that's not how I handle my IRL relationships. I always raw dog. But yeah, like to see some red finally. It's been punishing. Yeah, AVXL will have its day too. Don't worry. It will meet its maker. I put so many better companies in the ground.
Order partially filled. Order filled.
Yeah, we got the bids. We're going to go forward with the two highest bids. And sell the accounts to them. So if you get a response, who cares about Wall Street bets? Those guys aren't professionals, man. Those guys are professional retards. I'm not going to spend any time thinking about Wall Street bets.
Order partially filled.
There's real Wall Street. Yeah, Google account. Please do contact me. Martin
Order
at
filled.
dl.software. Martin at dl.software. If you can't remember that, Martin at martinshkreli.com. Okay, well, there goes the stock right back up. So got a chance to buy some cheap options. Then I bought the 52 calls for very little on that dip, so very happy about that. Yeah. Quantum price action is crazy. This is retarded. Highly regarded.
Order partially filled. Order filled.
That dip was one of those fake outs I was talking about. It looked like for a second it was all over for quantum. Nope. Wrong. So if you started to press the short, you're now down a quick $3.
Order partially filled.
I wonder if somebody made a trade error or something, because it almost looks like it was a fat finger. Did you say sell a million or buy a million? No, I said buy a million, you idiot. Oh, shit. There's
Order filled.
Yeah, I'm doing a really cool analysis of how long it takes these bubbles to pop, and the average is like 60 days for when a stock goes parabolic. So around 60 days is the peak, and we're pretty close to that. Oh I'm sure all the ex-employees of Rigetti are going to sell all their stock, but that doesn't make a difference. I mean, all these people are all of a sudden, they thought
Order partially filled.
Rigetti, their stock would be
Order
worthless.
filled.
And thanks to a bunch of retards, they're going to be able to get out of their stock. Say, well, thank you. Holy shit. Appreciate it.
Order filled.
Yeah.
Order filled.
Yeah, I'm not short Nvidia or Tesla yet. Tesla's a good company. You know, it's hard to short company with really good management that can do a lot. Nvidia's probably a better candidate for that. It's still a really good company. It's just very highly priced. And it's kind of, you know, I'm not sure it's like, you know, I think they've sort of saturated. I didn't watch CES. It's not really not that important to Nvidia anymore. I mean, I said Nvidia would be the first $10 trillion company. Okay. I don't think these companies will stop raising money. They're just going to keep raising money until the stocks go down. Like, why wouldn't they? You idiots want this? Shit. Take it. Yeah, Michael knows. The cyclicality is just real. Okay, let's see.
Order filled. Order cancelled.
All right, so here's the patent. You might be right, dumb. You might be right.
Order filled. Order filled.
Yeah, I don't think if I were IonQ, I wouldn't want to be demonstrating my systems. This baby can factor 2 numbers. Big data. Quantum communications. Internet of Things. DoorDash? Yeah, the bubble is real, man. The bubble is real. It's so bubblicious. Okay, so what do we got here? Let's look at each claim. Okay, here's claim 1. So let's do a separate sheet on patents. All right, so we're going to start with these two. This quantum shit is crazy, bro. The stock's trading up and down $1 every fucking second. Crazy. Let me see where I make some adjustments real quick. Rigetti up, down, up, down. Yeah, all the shorts, all the longs will be cleaned out. Everybody will lose all their money. Rip. Rip, rip, rip. Up, down, rip. Try to stay a little hedged. All right, so here's the claims. This is a long-ass claim, actually. The claim's several pages? No, almost a whole page. Okay. Let's see if I can get it all here. Put this bad boy in paint. Okay. Let's think about this. So what are we claiming? The invention is a compound of formula 2, where the 7th amino acid is a histidine or an alanine. The 8th amino acid is one of these. And then they say 16, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 25, 27, etc. All of these, you know, it could kind of be anything. I think I lost the resolution too, which sucks. Let me copy and paste it. Oh, no, it's fine. Well, yeah, it's fine. Okay, good. Okay, so this is kind of a genus patent. I wonder if this guy's a species patent. So let's look at him. You know what I could do? I could get rid. I could trim a little bit,
Autofilled.
just a tiny bit of the Rigetti, and swap it into
Autofilled.
good old shitty ion Q. That's the game plan.
Autofilled.
It's a good game plan. Playboy? What you think, Playboy?
Order filled.
See Rigetti getting smoked again. Damn. Damn. Shit getting smoked again.
Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order cancelled.
Let's go. Let's go. The top is in. Let's go.